Okay, the second video in our series is for winterization and putting your boat to bed. We'll talk about the winterization process. There are several options for winterization. I'll highlight the area that we're talking about winterization. This is basically putting your boat to bed for the motor for the winter. If you have an inboard powered boat, whether it's an inboard engine or it's a IO, as they call them, inboard outboard, you have a power plant that's filled with water and it has to be winterized so it doesn't freeze. If you have an outboard motor, there are two options: a four-stroke outboard, which means you're not putting oil in it all season long. It just runs with gas only, or a two-stroke outboard, which means that there's a reservoir of oil, or you're putting an oil-gas mix from a gas can into that motor. So two-stroke, you're mixing oil. Four-stroke, you're not mixing oil, it's just pure gas. So there's a pricing here. If you have an outboard motor, which would be most pontoons, or almost all pontoons, and many fishing type boats, those type of things, we have an outboard motor hanging off the back of your boat. The four-stroke outboard will include the oil change. The two-stroke doesn't do an oil change because you're mixing oil all along. So there's two different prices for those options. If you're doing an inboard-outboard, which many boats have the inboard motor and the outdrive, then you're doing a winterization of that inboard-outboard motor is here. You'll also probably want to do an oil and filter change, which is down here. So this inboard and outboard winterization and this oil change are hooked together. Same with a straight inboard. A straight inboard is where you just have a prop at the bottom of your boat. Brands that would include this type would be Mastercraft, Nautique, Wakesetter, Malibu, Taigi, Supra, Moomba. Those would be your straight inboards. If that's your kind of motor, then you're winterizing the motor and you also want to do an oil change down here. So the options we have are for an outboard here, or we have an inboard motor and an oil filter change. If you have a jet boat like a Yamaha, then you will fall into the personal watercraft four-stroke option here. So if you're dealing with the Yamaha type with a jet boat, that you'll fall under the personal watercraft. We price this by engine. If you have a boat with two motors, then you're going to pay this times two. The personal watercraft are jet skis and wave runners. They're with a jet engine type thing, typically just one, and you would pay this price. If you have a two-stroke, again, just like an outboard, you'll have oil getting mixed with your gas on a regular basis. And if the older ones are like that, most of our newer PWCs now are all four-stroke, which means you're just adding gas and you don't have oil mix going in. So this includes an oil change. So those are your options for winterization.